Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So far, absolute chaos in Rostermania last night as the key players may have made some major decisions. The Los Angeles Thieves could well have another super team on their hands next season, depending on your opinion on this roster that they may well be putting together. Envoy dropped off the team, unrestricted free agent, and presumably they would only do that if they have a good replacement lined up as an SMG. Big rumours still emerging that Scrappy is going to stay on Thieves. Nadeshot said it last night, there was a 1% chance he was going to leave. That now seems to be almost locked in unless Falcons come with a mega bag to change the tide of this Rostermania once again. It was all going on last night. This has major implications for what FaZe and some of the other top teams are also going to do. Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Now, let's begin with the absolute chaos in the Spanish scene last night, because this was going crazy and I couldn't believe the level of drama here. But when you understand the rivalry, look, you think OpTic and FaZe is a rivalry? Yeah, it's a rivalry. But there isn't the level of hatred maybe as there is between Koi and the Heretics. Now, Real has been at the centre of some drama on this for some time. Toronto wanted to buy him before, and I think Miami, the rumour has it that like Toronto were basically thinking they were going to get the deal done, and Miami were almost agreeing to it, and then Miami pulled the plug and were like, no, we're not selling him to you for whatever price or whatever, and then there was a bit of drama about it, and it kind of felt like a little bit of petty politics. Now, maybe Toronto have got their lick back on this one, now they're known as Koi, because yesterday it was all happening, right? So Rancor, we're pretty sure, is staying on Heretics. He was linked to FaZe, but there would have been a buyout involved, and Heretics, it seems, understandably, were like, if we lose Rancor, our organisation is basically cooked, especially because they are a Spanish team. They want to continue to be a Spanish team. Rancor and Super, two talents that probably they should have found slightly earlier, given that we knew they were rather good in challenges. They picked them up, they did great things, and if they were to sell Rancor to FaZe, they would kind of be chalking up their competitiveness. So they're going to keep him. They're maybe going to bring back Metals, and presumably they wanted to bring back Real as well. Now, this is very interesting because he was a free agent. Real's contract was over, so he was obviously talking to other teams. And Koi, Toronto, they've wanted him before, and now, especially because they're going to become Koi, more of a Spanish team, they do want a Spanish player to represent that organization for sure. So they were looking at getting Real, and Ronnie said last night, and Benjay said it on stream as well, that pretty much Toronto offered Real triple his salary. They were like, okay, whatever they were paying you at Miami, we'll offer you 3 times that. Come and play for us. Now, as a result of this, it seems that Miami then bounced back and told Real, okay, all right, if they're going to offer you that, we'll match it or whatever, right? We'll try and make it work to keep you on our team because we feel like we need you as that SMG option. This is probably what Real was tweeting the thinking emoji over the last couple of days, trying to decide what his decision was actually going to be. It looked like, though, as we've just seen in the tweets, that Miami were going to re-sign him. They'd agreed a deal. To my understanding, this is basically true. I think they had agreed a deal. I think Real had told them, yeah, okay, that works. But then Toronto obviously came back with another suggestion. So aBeZy, top guy at Koi, did this message, and this is like a reference to this other thing we'll see in a second, but aBeZy is like one of the biggest creators and streamers on the planet, and he does this tweet to Real and does all of this basically. Now, this is a reference to what happened in October 2024. Not so familiar with this, but basically there was this post that went out in the League of Legends side, and apparently was quite effective in securing the services of a current Koi League of Legends player. So it seems that Koi fans were trying to do a similar thing here with Real, and then Real drops this in the early hours of the morning. It's official, contract has been signed, and as soon as this goes down, it becomes clear that actually he's not signed this contract with the Heretics, he's signed this contract with Toronto. Neil Duffy, one of the top guys at Overactive Media at Toronto, reposts this one. We also have this tweet from one of the top guys at Heretics. Now, the drama here is kind of hilarious, but it makes sense if you understand the rivalry between these two organizations, and this is kind of like a Barcelona-Real Madrid situation in Spain, right? it's very tribal, and Real was kind of caught in the crossfire here, and it's obviously caused a lot of drama, right? So this guy from Heretic says, this is the worst night of my life. Tomorrow I wake up and hopefully this is a lie, I think is kind of what he's getting at there. aBeZy was then in the replies, you know, popping stuff like this, and then it was all going off, right? So aBeZy was in the replies. Then you had Methodsick, who then, of course, Heretic's coach, came in the replies as well, and then there was the original Spanish, and then he responded and said, let's see if you tweet the same when they play and not just to stir things up to get him to sign with you guys. Good luck, and I hope you support him like we did through thick and thin. Then there was this other tweet. He said, you won't end up getting annoyed in the morning, right? And then Methodsick replies again and says, no, I just feel sorry that a Spanish project is getting screwed, but I'm happy for the one who's going to steal your money. They neither feel nor care about you. So here we go. The rivalry's going next level. And it's, yeah, it's fascinating because the Spanish guys on Heretics obviously like, look, we had a Spanish project here, and now Toronto have come along and basically stolen this player away from us that we thought we were going to get him re-signed, and now it's kind of screwing the Spanish project as Method sees it. So it makes things real interesting in terms of what happens next now, because what do Heretics do? They've just lost one of their real prized assets, and maybe they were going to lose him anyway because he was an unrestricted free agent, he could leave, but they thought they were going to do enough to re-sign him, and then Ronnie's dropping the article just this morning and saying, look, yeah, Real is going to Toronto after a particularly chaotic night in the COD scene and in the Spanish scene as well. So the question, I guess, is now, what do Heretics do? Where do they go from here? Who do they sign instead? Because losing Real is no doubt a very big loss to that organisation, and I'm sure Rancor and Super aren't so happy about losing that calibre of player. But let's talk about Thieves. What's going on there? What's going to happen next? So for the last couple of days, some rumours started to emerge that Falcon's definitely interested in trying to poach Scrappy right here, right now, and some serious numbers were thrown around as a result. Nadeshot came on stream last night and said the chances of that are pretty low. They're going to have to pay a lot more money if they want to get him, and understandably people were kind of wondering, okay, what does that number really look like? What actually have they offered him, and what comes next? Now, to our understanding, Scrap ain't going anywhere. HyDra's not going anywhere, and Ghosty and Envoy are going somewhere, right? Ghosty, a restricted free agent, and as of last night, there is an unrestricted free agent on the market, and that is Envoy. We'll see in a second. So Nadeshot said it last night that, look, if they want to buy him, they've got to bring a lot more money. Now, what do we think about this, right? Because $2 million is a lot of money, but is that the actual figure, right? Taylor did a tweet last night to say, effectively implied that the $2 million is a fabrication. That number's not real, and it kind of makes sense because I get so much money to pay for a player as just a buyout who's got 1 year left on their deal. And if $2 million was the figure, as we mentioned, it would be so very difficult for Thieves to turn that down, right? Like, it's so much money, and it would go so far in the COD space, especially because you might lose Scrub next year anyway, that it would be difficult to imagine Thieves could possibly turn that kind of a bag down. So if Nadeshot's coming at it and saying, look, if they want to buy him, they've got to bring a lot more money to buy him out of his contract, kind of implies to me that that figure was not the actual figure that Falcons are willing to offer. Who knows, right? What actually is going on, maybe we'll figure out in due course. But Scrap is looking, well, he wants to stay, first of all, and they would sell him if the price was right, but the price maybe is not quite right. And as a result, they want to keep him around. Scrap and HyDra, I don't imagine want to break apart as a duo either, right? I think they've still got plenty of success in their future. And the other day, Scrap did this tweet about Envoy, right? Said the kid has won more than most players could ever dream of. You're a peasant behind a phone screen, he said to CDL at the time when he was like, get rid of that bum Envoy. And well, then fast forward a few days, and Envoy is officially an unrestricted free agent. This is a major development, right? Because we saw Ghosty get released, well, not released, but he was put to a restricted free agency position. His contract is still there. They're expecting to get a buyout for him somewhere. But Envoy has been totally released. And this is very interesting from a couple of angles, right? Because Ghosty, they no longer want to continue with him on the roster, for whatever reason you might want to say. But he's restricted. He's allowed to stay on the bench, as it were, but they want to sell him, and probably they will. Envoy, you would think they could be in a similar position to say, okay, make Envoy restricted, admit to him that, like, we're not going to continue after a difficult end to the year for both Envoy and Ghosty, despite a solid regular season, to say the very least. But where next, right? You'd think Envoy would be getting bought out, but no, they've just released his contract, it seems, entirely. And Envoy is now going to be looking for a new team. But this has been quite a while, right? Like, we're basically 2 weeks after the World Cup concluded, and now we're seeing Envoy UFA. It's quite a long time to come to that development, and more than likely because Thieves were trying to make sure they can get the players that they want to get. Tim Hannon, Envoy's father, actually quote tweets this and says, "Y'all don't even know the half of it with this damn day." So apparently a lot was going on behind the scenes, and there's been lots of drama, and now Envoy has been officially released. So where next for Envoy? That's a conversation we'll have in the coming days, but who are they going to sign instead? Well, the big development is that it's probably going to be Kenny, and we think probably aBeZy as well. So this is very interesting and controversial to many, because did Kenny have a good season? No, nobody's going to say that he did. And he wouldn't tell you that he did himself. He was not having fun on OpTic. He had that 0.3 series against the Thieves, as we well remember. He joined the Rocker, and he was better individually, but the team was no better really with him than they were with Paul X. So Kenny didn't have a great season. But, as I've said multiple times, Kenny is highly regarded by the players and continues to be as such. And his stock, from the community perspective, may have gone down, but from a pro player perspective, did not necessarily to the same degree. Kenny is still recognised by a load of the pros, and to be fair, by myself and some of the others as well in the community, as being a winner, having done it plenty of times before, knowing how to execute. Is it a bit of a risk bringing in Kenny, given that last year, individually, he had a tough time? Yeah, but it's not like you've not got plenty of slaying power elsewhere on this team as well. And if you lead a leader with good comms and someone that knows how to win and isn't called Dan Ghosty, Kenny is almost your best option out there right now. If you're not going to go and get Drazah, who's also another option, but, you know, you're not going to pair him with Scrap. So that's the big development of last night, really, that Thieves are looking to bring Kenny into the team. In my opinion, I really like it. Like, I actually do think it's really good, but it will be a controversial decision for sure, bringing Kenny back into the fold in Thieves. You know, they're dropping Ghosty for Kenny, right? That's one of the pieces. Of course, the other side of it is, okay, well, if you're getting rid of Ghosty and bringing in Kenny, okay, but who are you dropping Envoy for, right? Who's the option there? Rumour has it, aBeZy is the man that they're looking at. So all of a sudden, this Rostermania has come full circle, because it wasn't many hours ago we were discussing Thieves potentially selling the likes of a Scrappy to Falcons for a load of money. Now they're keeping those players, and actually Thieves are the ones spending, right? They're the ones going out there and buying aBeZy probably from FaZe. And look, they're looking to sell on Ghosty, it seems. Who knows what happens with Envoy, but yeah, the rumour has it that they're certainly targeting aBeZy, and actually Shotzzy came out on stream last night and said that as far as he's aware, this is near enough a done deal. This was Nadeshot's chat yesterday, and aBeZy was having a few comments in the chat, so take that as you will, but Shotzzy said on stream that yeah, he thinks that aBeZy to Thieves is pretty much a done deal, and it's going to be happening, and it says that in Ronnie's article as well. He at least mentions it, right, the interest in aBeZy, though securing him would require a buyout. So that is, as it stands, the rumoured Thieves team, and the Thieves team that now seems more likely than anything else. They keep Scrap, they keep HyDra, they drop Ghosty for Kenny, and they drop Envoy for aBeZy. And this to me is a hell of a team, like it really is. The HyDra aBeZy SMG duo on paper should be pretty devastating, and then Scrap and Ken on the ARs. Look, obviously there's going to be some concern about Kenny, and many will think that this is the wrong choice, but I think in terms of the type of player that this Thieves team needs, Kenny fits that mold very well indeed, if that's going to be the other trio on the team. So I'm not going to lie, I look at this, I liked last year's team with Envoy and Ghosty, but I honestly think this team could be better. Like, it could be better than last year's Thieves team, and last year's Thieves team, they tops the CDL standings as we know at the end of the year, but obviously that was against an OpTic that were not good the majority of the season, and now they very much are with Mercules. So yeah, what do you guys think about this roster? Is it as good as last year's team? Is it worse? Is it better? Like, how do you feel about this Kenny move? How do you think aBeZy and HyDra would get on as a duo? But I think that in terms of what Thieves could have done, it was looking bad for some time. They were looking cooked. It looked like they weren't going to get the players they wanted, and Falcons were just going to steal everyone. Now, all of a sudden, they've kept their duo, and they've added 2 great players into the mix as well. So, yeah, very, very interesting. Now, just before we close out, what does this mean for the other teams? Because Drazah not going to Thieves, Simp presumably staying on FaZe. So, what does that mean, right? I mean, we just saw a couple of tweets at a pretty similar time here between Drazah and between Simp, and therefore there has been some speculation as to whether that is what's going to happen on FaZe. That Simp stays on FaZe, maybe brings 04 along for the ride as well. Maybe Drazah comes back into the mix as well. You know, Cellium leaves, aBeZy leaves. But as we know, that trio, therefore, the Simp, aBeZy, Cellium trio, is going to be firing for 3 different teams next year. So very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.
These also showing interest in aBeZy. Those securing them would require working out a buyout. I'm pretty sure this already happened, chat. I mean, bro, it's pretty obvious. Envoy literally tweeted out he's a free agent.